The president, as you know, unveiling a massive new budget Monday, breaking a promise he made as a candidate to reduce the debt. I think he said he was going to cut it in half. Yesterday, he gave this excuse.
This recession turned out to be a lot deeper than any of us realized. Everybody who was out there back in 2009, if you look back at what their estimates were in terms of how many jobs had been lost, how bad the economy had contracted when I took office, everybody underestimated it. People thought that the economy had contracted 3%. It turns out it contracted close to 9%.
We're back with former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. I mean, I hate to bring it up, but if the economy was worse than he expected, then wouldn't you be proposing a budget that had more cuts in it?
You would think so. What he does is defy common sense. And also, did you catch what he was saying in there? He is now blaming the estimators, the statisticians, the economists. Everyone else is to blame for the economic woes except for his failed policies. That is another indication of his naivete and his he's not fit to hold this office, because we need leadership that will be held accountable, that won't shy away from taking responsibility for mistakes that they have made. And President Obama has made many mistakes in allowing increased taxes, allowing government to grow, accumulating trillions and trillions of dollars more in debt. Though, yes, as you point out, he had promised to cut deficits in half.
Right. Let's talk about something else he promised. I'm watching the end of Jennifer Griffin's report last night, and he said, and by the way, the administration is going to be releasing a proposal that would cut our nuclear arsenal by 80%, back to the 1950s level, less warheads than China.
This is part of that fundamental transformation of America that he, as a candidate, had promised us.
A nuclear-free country.
And that is this naive notion that everybody would be nuclear-free then, that nobody would have nukes. What concerns me is, as Alaska's governor, we have at Fort Greely the missile defense system up there. In '09, I had to battle him, and at the time, Secretary Gates asking, why in the world back then had they proposed cutting missile defense systems? Sure. And they backed off a little bit on that, but it was always with the notion that, well, when the political timing was right, he'd come back around and he'd start stripping more of missile defense system. And overall, this 80% reduction idea to make us much less safe.
One of the things that he has said is he really wants Congress to pass this payroll tax cut extension that will conveniently get him through the election. Sounds like there's a tentative deal on Capitol Hill. There are a number of freshman Republicans that say, wait a minute, we don't pay for this anywhere. It will add to the deficit. What do you think?
I think at this point, the fewer dollars that politicians in Washington, D.C. take from us out of our paychecks, the better. I don't want them taking our money. I don't trust the way that they spend it.
Are you telling Republicans they should vote no then?
I'm telling Republicans, allow the tax cuts to continue, the Bush tax cuts. Otherwise, it's poor politics on Republicans' part, because the general public is not going to follow that inside baseball stuff about what the offsets will be, or, well, how will we pay for this? They're just going to see, as I see, government trying to take more from hardworking Americans, the taxpayer, and spending it frivolously, like on things like doing studies to figure out you need to wash your hands after playing in the
But that
sand.
money ostensibly is going to the Social Security Fund.
Well, it's going to be an idea here, again, Gretchen, about the general public not being obsessed with the process of how all of this is to work, budgeting is to work. We're looking at it, kind of taking that 60,000-foot level look at it, saying we are becoming, in this nation, a party of big government and a party of freedom-loving Americans. This issue isn't a partisan issue, and it's not an inside-type baseball issue that only the pundits and the politicians themselves will understand. We understand with this issue that President Bush had a good idea in cutting the payroll tax, and President Obama at first he didn't want any of those to be extended. So and he had even said, as a candidate and then as president, he said it's poor policy to increase anybody's taxes at a time of a weak economy.
We'll find out what Capitol Hill does.
Well,
Could be prompt.
We'll find out. But the fewer dollars that politicians in Washington, D.C. have of ours, the better.